So again, second chart today. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start the YouTube highlight from right here. I know I said that earlier, but like I said, the stream messed up, so we're going to restart this. And today is Monday. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the Heroic Dragon Soul walkthrough. And hopefully from this point forward, every Monday can be about beta, just something beta related, and we'll kind of take it from there. So today we went through, if you guys have seen, just go to my YouTube channel and you can see pretty much every boss that's been gone through pretty in depth. Started with War Master, then we did Spine, then Madness, then Yorsaj, Zanaz, and what was the other one? Hagara. So now we're just going to knock out Ultraxion and Morchok. Nothing too super complex on those two. We're going to take it one at a time. Just going to start with Morchok here. Just going to put it on 25 heroic, same deal as the previous weeks. Just going to go through the abilities in the dungeon journal and things like that. Okay, so how this works on heroic, which is different than normal, is I mean the stomp works the same way. You got to be within 25 yards of the boss. The added part of heroic is it splits into two. You get two mobs. You get Morchok and then Kortrom, or whatever how you want to say it. It's Morchok spelled backwards. So they split up, and then it's basically you just fight the same fight, just two different groups. Okay. Couple of the abilities, just going over them. Resonating Crystal. This is the thing that targets multiple people. You just have to make sure they stack on top of it. Depending on the debuff that you have, let you know how much damage it's going to be doing to you. Let's see, Furious, he enrages sub 20%, increasing his attack speed by 30%, and his damage inflicted by 20%. So if you're a tank, you kind of want to be sitting on your shield wall. Make sure you have your shield wall ability up for the final 20%, or have at least enough cooldowns active to live through that. There's a few different times during the fight that you're going to get sucked in, and then he's going to put the fragments up all around it, and then it's kind of like the boss in Stone Core. You just have to LOS the stuff on the ground, and don't stand inside of the, here it is, Black Blood of the Earth. Nothing super complex here. It's just stacking dot. You can obviously use things like AMS and whatnot to get rid of it and all that stuff. So let's see. Kortrom, he has the exact same abilities as Morchok. Just make sure I'm not missing anything here. Just going through this, so nothing super complex. I'm just going to go through a quick video walkthrough, and then we're going to knock out Ultraxion. I get a little bit more in depth on Ultraxion, but Morchok, I mean, you got to look at it like, I mean, it's once you have 2 or 3 pulls on the boss, it's really not a issue whatsoever. So let me go ahead and go to our YouTube page for Blood Legion Illidan, and we're going to get this started. Alright, so I'm going to go through playlist 4.3 Dragon Soul, and you go all the way down here to our world first Morchok kill. Okay, so we're going to wait for this advertisement to be over. I'll go ahead and toss the link in chat for you guys if you want to follow along. Let's see. The guy that's in chat that's asking about what's the benefit to leveling engineering, just watch some of the previous shows that have been recorded. Just basically comes down to the raid utility. Alright. One thing that I just noticed actually going through here, shards of Earth Vengeance erupt from the ground, inflicting 15,000. Oh, that's, never mind, that's a phase change. I was like, what the hell is that? Okay, so, yeah, that's all the abilities. Nothing too complex there. We're going to go ahead and tab over to the YouTube vid, and what I just linked to you guys, and we're just going to play through here real quick, and nothing super complex. Let you guys just kind of see what's going on, and if you guys have any questions, if if your guild hasn't done heroics and you're going to step into it, and things like that, it's something that you could ask anything you're curious about. Quick rundown of what you want to do going into this fight though. In 25 man or 10 man, 10 man you just want to have 5 people on each side. 25 man, it would be a 12-13 split, obviously, because you can't split 25 people evenly. There are a couple things that you can do with the fight to min-max things like that. And I mean, even if this is a fight that's more or less face roll for your guild, to where it's not hard at all, there are a few pointers that you could take, and it would help you greatly if you're trying to improve what you want to do. Like if you're going for speed kills or something like that. Okay, you see the stomp there. He does 1 stomp before he splits. The way you want to work it, I mean, worst case, you put 3 healers on each side. The left side, as you're looking into Wormrest Temple, the left side is going to have fewer stomps than the right side. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you're short a healer, you want to have it short on the left side instead of the right. Okay, so let's see here. This is like I said, the boss is split in two. You have each tank, and they're assigned groups. Like we do, group 1 and 3 right, groups 2 and 4 left. 1 and 3 right, 2 and 4 left, and the healers split accordingly. Okay, so then they both spawn crystals on the ground. You make sure to. The thing about this is you always want to make sure that you eat the stomp before you go to the crystal. Okay, because what happens a lot of the time is you run to the crystal too soon, and you end up not taking the stomp because it's like 25 yards. You have to be within 25 yards of the boss that's stomping to be able to absorb it, and then you move to the crystal. You have plenty of time, and it's a good rule of thumb to always wait for the stomp before you go to the crystal. Okay, so and as far as like what your tanks need to be doing, they need to keep it in one place, wait for the stomp to go off, then pull it right next to the crystal to make sure melee have the maximum amount of uptime possible on the boss. Okay, so we're gonna just let it play, and you see here the first one that goes out is always the right mob. So they waited for the stomp, then they run over there, it blows up, no one dies. Okay, well actually one person died, but we rezzed him. Again, this is our progression pull. This is the very first pull that we did on it right as we zoned into the instance, and we ended up one-shotting it. So I mean, it's not a difficult fight whatsoever, but I mean, we did have a lot of PTR testing on it and things like that. So it wasn't completely new. We kind of had an idea of what we were doing with the shards and things like that, but it's very, very simplistic in design. Soak the stomp, then move to the shard. Wait for it to blow up, repeat, and then LOS things during this phase. Okay, so the only thing here is if you may run into who do you want to have soaking. You can have a rogue soak. He can feint the stomps, because what happens is the tank and the closest person to the tank or the boss. I know it's been one of the two at all times. I've heard people say it's the closest. We just have the person stand on the tank that's helping soak, because it's a tank and one other person that's going to take more damage. So it's best fit for a rogue who can just feint every one of the stomps. That's your best bet. You can also have something like a shadow priest and shield them or something like that. I mean, anything with a lot of damage reduction and things like that. Okay, so go ahead and play here. If you're trying to buy DPS, a couple things that you can add to this fight is, you can have, like I said, you can have DKs or, anybody that can reset their stacks. You can have them run in and kind of get healed through it, especially now with the nerfs and whatnot. So, nothing big. Then you come out of the phase and it's literally just a rinse and repeat all the way up until 20%, and at 20% he does the enrage. Okay, so one thing that you could do, if you're doing the fight 10 or 25 men and you're really, really strapped for damage, okay, a little bit of an advanced tactic is you can keep them both on the sides of the road. Like you see here where I'm hovering my mouse pointer, like if you want to have it right here and you want to have the other one on the other side of the road, which you can't really see right here. I'll see if Affinity ever spins his camera fully. And the reason what you buy out of doing that is, you only have to make sure that you're in for stomps. Okay, so you see right here, he just moved his camera. Let me see. Okay, you can kind of see it in the corner of the screen, the other one. Okay, we weren't really doing it at the time, but if you keep them both to the edge of the road, you should pretty much be fine on the resonated crystals, and you can allow your casters to kind of stand in between. As they can stand 20 yards away from this one and still be in range to keep double dots and things like that rolling on the opposite one. Okay, so it's kind of a cleave strat, a spell cleave strat. And things like that. It'll help buy a lot more damage if you really want, okay? And especially if you're short on things like debuffs like COE or something like that, you know what I mean? So you can have it do that. And again, the fight's more or less just rinse and repeat. Move in, wait for the stomp before you move. You see here the crystal's coming, but we're going to wait for the stomp before we go over there. Everybody's chilling. Stomp comes. Alright, then everybody runs in. Okay, then you have plenty of time. Or not plenty of time. I mean, you got to go pretty quickly. As soon as the stomp's going off, you got to get in there ASAP. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. We're going to fast forward here, let you guys kind of see the berserk. They get smaller as the fight goes on, as well. Makes it a little easier to move around and things like that. And the only time it gets really tricky is if you have orbs that just keep spawning further and further and further away. We've actually had it where orbs will keep spawning further and further and further away, and you end up pulling trash. If you want to get them a little bit closer to the middle, a quick quick tip would be during the slime phase. One thing that you can do is, if you're a tank, you run back to the middle of the room and it kind of resets where they start. Like right now, if we wanted to get them back closer to the middle for the dots and things like that, or just even to pull it away from trash, you just run back to the middle and then it'll run back to you. You don't have to keep going further and further out, okay? Might seem pretty self-explanatory, but you'd be surprised. Alright, so, and you see here he's enraged. You can probably watch raid warnings here. I probably set him on all my cooldowns. See, Bone Shield just faded. I go ahead and activate VB. Let me see if I can. Oh, you guys can't see this. One sec. There you go. You see the chat. And then VB fades. Probably just sitting on IBF towards the very end, I would assume. Rebone Shield, Lichborn. Okay, maybe I'd already IBF'd, I guess, because I'm doing. Oh wait, no, I IBF at 3%, so it's pretty shitty on my part. We're just pretty much in the bag. So that's that fight in a nutshell. I really don't see many people having a lot of problems with Morchok. I just want to go over it, like I said, for completion's sake and having it in there. And the other thing that we're really going to go over real quick is just some Ultraxion stuff. Just give me one sec. Ultraxion I get a little bit more in depth with. Okay. We're going to let this buffer here. If you guys have questions about Morchok or anything like that, let me just scroll through for whatever reason that you would. Let me make sure that I'm not skipping over anyone's anything. The people that keep talking about engineering, you want to do it for rocket boots, and you want to do it for cardboard assassin, and the glove tinker, you don't put synapse springs. You put quick flap deflection plates, which gives you armor. You don't want stats. You're not getting. I mean, you end up getting strength out of it or something as a tank. So it's not like it gives you stamina. It's either agi, ent, or strength. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Okay. So what we're going to do here, like I said, just go through Ultraxion. I want to go through this. This is, this fight here, well, we're going to pause it while it's buffering, and we're going to go through the journal real quick and, make sure everybody understands all the abilities. This fight doesn't really change on Heroic at all. The only thing that you're going to add on Ultraxion is you have a debuff that you have to deal with, and that debuff has, I think it's 2 minutes. It's a 2-minute debuff that goes on your character that keeps you from staying out, so you can't just have the same people stay out. So that's the added component to have to the heroic version of Ultraxion. On top of that, the fading lights are a lot more frequent. All right. So let's just check this out here. Unstable Monstrosity. Yeah, this is the raid damage that goes on. Every minute it increases. So if you're healing the fight and you're going into it, you need to understand it's going to increase at the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 minute mark, and that's all the increases. Once you hit 6 minutes, it's a hard enrage. It's like a 5-6 second cast for the Twilight Eruption or whatever she does whenever she enrages, and or if you don't leave enough people out or whatnot. But you need to have your healing planned out around those 1 minute intervals and things like that. Okay, so moving on from that, from the raid damage part, Twilight Shift, Heroic Will. This is your special action button that you use whenever you have the debuff. There's only 2 things that you need to go down on this fight. If you're a healer, there's only 1 thing. That's Hour of Twilight cast. If you're a DPS, you need to go down for the specific Hour of Twilight, and you need to go down for Fading Lights. Okay, that's if you're a healer, you don't have to worry about Fading Light for whatever reason. Probably because it's pretty pain in the ass fight to heal, because you were, a lot of guilds under-healed it during progression. It would have been pretty brutal to have healers with Fading Lights, but so it's pretty good design on their part. They didn't overlook that. Fading Lights, just a debuff that you get. It can go anywhere between, I think I've had one spawn as quick as like 3 seconds and as long as like 8 or 9 seconds on Heroic. It varies. You should have to pay attention to it. And you want to be milking it. You don't want to milk it like Dexter milks it and then just, end up eating shit 3 times in one fight. You want to have it somewhat able to produce consistent results. You want to milk it as close as you can without killing yourself. And, if that's .004. You know, if you're that big of a badass that you can consistently do that, go for it. But if it means you living or dying, do it at 1 second, you know, .5 or something like that. I mean, a lot of it depends on your connection and your latency. But bottom line is, you need on heroic, you need to be milking as much as you can to buy as much DPS time as you can. Okay. Then when you use the button, you're down there. You can't really do shit. One quick tip on that: if you're a healer, you can conk pot when you're down there. I don't know how many healers actually do that. I know I've heard ours talk about it and things like that. I think I've done it on my shaman. So, let's see. Hour of Twilight. This is the ability that comes out. And you have to have the raid group split up accordingly. Okay, so you have to have 5 people stay out on 25 man, and it's 2 people on 10 man. So you have to have 2 people stay out on 10 man, 5 people on 25 man, and you get a 2-minute debuff on you. That's called Looming Darkness. Okay, what it is, whenever you're struck by Hour of Twilight, powerful waves, it basically causes you to take increased damage from the next one, aka you're not going to live if you stay out again. So you have to have cycled groups going up and down and things like that. It's not that different. I mean, it's the same thing as normal. You just, like I said, you have the debuff added. Twilight Burst. Yeah, this is if no one's in melee range, she just starts nuking the shit out of people. Twilight Eruption. This is what happens whenever you either enrage, and I'm pretty sure it's also what happens if you don't leave enough people out. Protection of the aspects. Okay, these are all the buffs that go out. Okay, as far as this is for mainly includes healers, but also tanks. I want to touch real quick since there's only 1 tank buff that you really need to worry about. Last Defender of Azeroth is the buff that goes out for the tanks. It doubles the duration of every cooldown that you have, and it halves the cooldown. Okay, and one good thing about this is it doesn't go out until like 5 or 10 seconds into the fight. So what you can do going into it is just, you know, you pull. Like say on my Death Knight, as soon as I pull and I get it, I pop VB, IBF, Dancing Rune Weapon, and Bone Shield. Because as soon as the debuff goes out, it resets every single one of those cooldowns. Okay, you pop AMS too. There's no real benefit to doing it. I mean, if you just want to pop it, sure. It doesn't reset the cooldown on thing. It on PTR it did use also Blood Tap and Power Rune Weapon, Raise Dead. It did all that, but they took that out. So there's certain abilities that do and don't work, and it's pretty much anything that can be classified as a defensive ability. Say like on a Prop Paladin, you can desack, it'll reset the desack. So that's a good tip to use, and then you just want to be in the habit of using your cooldowns twice as often. Okay. Going through, there's 3 healing buffs. There's a red buff, green buff, and blue buff. We'll touch a little bit on those. And then Nozdormu has the time loop. Basically, this comes out at 5 minutes. So from the 5 to 6 minute mark, you have time loop. And what it does is any attack that would otherwise kill the player, it restores them to maximum HP. And you then lose time loop. So it's basically like a Guardian Spirit on steroids. It actually works. I've actually heard people say that you can leave the whole raid out for an hour of Twilight. If they have time loop, it won't kill them. We've never tried it. That's something that I haven't really confirmed. I think it would be pretty cool if it was. You just leave the raid out with time loop, and I know that it probably won't work if you have the debuff. I'm not sure. I mean, there's definitely certain things that it doesn't work for, and I'm not sure why people always say that. But like I said, I've never tried it. The biggest thing you just need to worry about, just let that save people that raid damage would be killing, and you just do the fight as normal. Okay. Let's see. Blue buff, green buff, and red buff. I actually have a spreadsheet here that our healers gave a little bit of input on. Let me find this. On which buffs that go out. This is that 10 versus 25 man spreadsheet that we did not too long ago. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in chat, and you guys can just look at it. They just gave me a quick rundown when I was talking to them about it. I mean, we let them do their thing. If you want to do green, it's best put with a shaman, holy priest, and paladin, and then blue is best. They said was shaman, pally, and then red was disc priest and resto druid. Okay, so that's the input that our healers gave us. I'm sure you may disagree for whatever reason. That's fine. Feel free to make a post on our public forums and ask them about the healing stuff. You know, I'm not going to pretend to know any little bit or every little bit of intricate detail in regard to that, but I do know that they were able to heal it pretty successfully, so it does have some, you know, well-found basis behind it. Looking just real quick on what they do. This is red here. It's basically crystals you click in the back. If you're clicking red, it increases healing done by 100% for the duration of the battle. Crystal has one charge, so basically only one person at a time. Green says causes all healing to be done to be duplicated and redistributed evenly. The reason that they probably said green was for, let's see, yeah, Pally, Shaman, and Holy Priest. Probably the AoE healing and Holy Radiance and things like that. That's probably why that one ends up being so well. And then blue reduces the mana cost of all healing spells by 75% and increases spell haste by 100%. Alright, so just looking at what they said there, for blue you want a Shaman and a Pally. Probably the Pally just because you can actually spam the shit out of Holy Radiance. And then the Shaman, you know, with just Chain Heal and Healing Rain. So, just the raw throughput, they're more or less suggesting the Disc and the Druid. I'm not actually sure if that increases the amount absorbed by shields as well. That would be something that one of the healers would have to throw in. So, bottom line is just make sure your healers have the healing buff stuff worked out, because it's only one per, and they come out at different times during the fight. Alright, so that's a quick overview of that. Now I'm going to just cut to a video real quick and kind of like go over how you should be doing groups and things of that nature. So I'm going to go back to this video and going to hit play here. This is a very, let me give you guys a link if you want to follow along with it. This is a very straightforward fight. This is the you know, Bell Rock, Patchwork, whatever you want to label it. There's always like one fight a tier where it's just raw DPS check, okay, and that was the one in this tier. I mean, I honestly thought it was pretty epic. It was one of my favorite fights in the terms of how cool and things like that it was, just because you're fighting this huge-ass dragon on the top of Wormrest Summit, and, you know, it's just you versus them right there in your face, and it's just a huge dragon. So I thought it was pretty cool how they're flying there in front of you. So what happens here, you can, I mean, there's a few different strats. You can put the raid back to the back where healers don't have to move. But I know we had our casters bitching about travel time and things like that, and it was more DPS to stand up front, you know, whatever. I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference, but there's no real reason not to stand up this close, to be honest with you. I mean, if the healer has to move once a fight to go get a crystal, I don't think that's going to make or break anything. Alright, and if it buys you a little more DPS, go for it. And you can see here we actually have the raid cooldown macros and things like that, lined out. And the way that we did it is you have 3 different groups, and if you rotate between 3 different groups, the first group that goes down, the debuff will be falling, you know, when it comes time to stay out as the 4th group. It can be that first group again. So you have to have 3 different groups of 5 people, okay? And the way that we do it is we had a raid group, and then we had 2 groups that could stay alive. The raid group had barriers and things like that with a lot of people that can't live through it. And the groups 1 and 2 were, you know, that's stuff like a hunter that can deterrence, a shadow priest that can dispersion, and you know, rogue that can cloak, DK that can AMS, things like that. So basically people that have immunities and or major damage reductions to be able to stay out and don't need external cooldowns. Okay, so you know, groups 1 and 2 are always, you know, myself. We usually have at least 2 rogues in the group, and fire mages, shadow priests, hunters, red paladins, DKs, all that stuff. Between any of those, you just want to comprise groups 1 and 2 of people that can immune it, and then 3, 4, and 5 can be whatever you want, as long as you've got a disc priest with a barrier or something like that. People are asking, how is it going to get you more DPS? I just told you, okay, so make sure you're listening. If you are standing in the back, there's travel time with your spells, alright, and it's less optimal for people that are trying to milk out every single ounce of damage. You know, like say for a Moonkin that's like dealing with eclipses and things like that. You know, I just remember them saying that the closer they are, the better, because you have instant knowledge. You don't have to keep track of, you know, okay, well this one's in flight, let me adjust this. It's just, you know, it's a lot more simple for a DPS. And also I think you got to be super close for something like the Tentacle and Girthalak to hit it. I'm not sure about that, but you know, that's just another thing to throw out there. But again, 3 groups, you want to have them set up and just kind of watching it go here. Nothing real special about the fight. It probably looks just like it does on, you know, LFR or whatnot. But, you know, all the damage is ramped up. The boss's HP is drastically increased. And, you know, the first week we actually 5 healed the fight. And, you know, I heard about guilds 3 healing it, 4 healing it. I mean, we definitely could have 4 healed it. We just knew that we had it by doing it with 5, we just kept having 0%, 1% wipes with people dying to fading light. It's really dumb, but I mean, it may seem as simple as, well, who can't hit their button, you know what I mean? But whenever you're trying to get that extra 2 million damage out of the raid, if everybody's milking it an extra 0.2 seconds, that's going to add up, So you couldn't really deal with having people going down at 1 second, wasting a complete GCD because they want to play it safe. You didn't have that luxury on progression and things like that. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to play here. You see the Hour of Twilight's being cast. And this one here is the raid group. Okay, so what I mean by raid group is he kind of has his raid frame set up inverted here. This is group 1, this is group 2, and then raid group was these 3. Okay, and the reason that you want to leave 3 groups out is just more damage. The more people you have staying out, the more damage you're going to have. Okay, so it's definitely a damage increase. You don't want to have, say if you have enough people to immune 3 different groups where you're still costing DPS by making them go down when they don't have to. You want to have that raid group that's going to be able to stay out with DSACs, barriers, rallying cries, AMZs. This is a fight where AMZ is really good on. You just have to time it well. You can't pop it too early or that AoE damage buffet will go off. You got to wait for the cast and near the end get the AMZ up, and that way it takes the full hit of the Hour of Twilight and it mitigates the damage pretty substantially. Okay. They said not too complex. You see actually here there were actually Zaris died there. We actually had a death on our kill, but that was a healer, so it didn't really affect DPS that much. Tanks just have to worry about the debuff. One actual thing about heroic, which I'm not sure if it's on normal or not, but what I was going to point out is what the tank actually has to deal with is there is a faded into Twilight debuff, okay? And in heroic, instead of generating no threat, you take 100% more physical damage. And the funny thing about this is, I actually didn't even know that. I didn't even realize that that's really what it did, because it was just, you kind of have to try to be able to have that debuff come into play, but if you are doing it wrong, if you taunt too early after coming back up, you're just going to get hit twice as hard by the boss. Like I said, it never was really a problem for us on progression, just because we weren't taunting immediately after coming back up. We would always wait, and it's kind of like the debuff just took care of itself. But just looking into it, I think one of the people in the Guild Shadows actually brought it up and was talking about it, and I'm like, wait, what? And then he's like, oh, faded into Twilight, and I started reading it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty funny. We actually never even looked at that. So it's just a really interesting part of the fight. Make sure you're not taunting too early, because you can just get crushed. Okay, as you take double damage while you have that debuff. It's not, like I said, it's not really that hard to deal with. You can just make sure that you wait for the debuff to fall before you ever taunt and things like that. Siratana here just pointing out in chat, if you're having problems with Ultraxion, this is one of the easier 10-man bosses, but if you're having problems with it for whatever reason, it's fine. There's a lot of people that are still progressing through the instance. If you have a really good paladin healer, they are able to solo heal it. But that also comes with, you probably got to have good DPS. I don't think a paladin is going to be able to solo heal it up through past the 5-minute mark. Once you hit the 5-minute mark, I'm pretty sure it enters unsoloable mode, even for a paladin. By one healing it, you need to have the DPS to pretty much be killing it right as the time loop and things like that are going off. So hopefully that could help somebody out that's watching this. Nothing real special. Like I said, it's kind of hard to make it interesting, but at the same time, there are a lot of intricacies that can help you out when doing this on heroic that you can or did not deal with doing normal or things like that. Biggest thing, just make sure you have your raid groups set up into 3 different groups. Make sure that you have the healers lined up on who knows who's getting what buff, and make sure your tanks are really solid on how they're dealing with their cooldowns. Raid cooldowns also have to be planned out. Like, say you only have 1 Disc Priest, right? So that's only 1 barrier. Say you don't have, let me start to think of like worst case scenario. Yeah, say you don't have a Disc Priest, so you don't have a barrier. Say you don't have a prop paladin in the raid, and say your druid and DK tanking it. So you don't have any type of raid mitigation outside of a, so, but if you're in 25 man, you don't have a prot warrior, a prot paladin, a disc priest, or a spirit link. If you don't have any of those, you probably don't need to be doing the fight, all right? But, I mean, you need to have some mitigating factor for that raid group if you're going to keep them out. Absolute worst case, if you don't have, any of those mitigating raid cooldowns that I just named off, you need to just have a third group of people that have immunities or something like that, and, have the other groups go down and whatnot. You can't stay out unless you have enough cooldowns to make it happen, okay? See. Yeah, I all this stuff is uploaded on YouTube. If you guys haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, go ahead and do so. I actually have a section on there that is just heroic Dragon Soul boss encounter walkthroughs, and this is the last boss that we're really going over. Kind of saved it for the last just because it was a little less complex than most, but at the same time, like I said, we're going to be going over it just for completionist's sake. Okay, so that's pretty much what today's focusing on, which is Morchok and this just to get it done. So make sure you check out the YouTube and things like that. Person in chat's asking, do you use Vamp Blood on cooldown? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, now probably if you guys go through and look at my laws, it's pretty sloppy just because it's not needed. But it's not really an excuse. It's just poor play on my part. But, say on progression, on progression it was used pretty much on cooldown. It is a 30-second cooldown, and it's also affected by the Last Defender of Azeroth. So 30-second cooldown because it's halved from the tank buff, and it's also double the duration, so it's 20 seconds. So you have it up for 2/3 of the entire fight, okay? You have it up for 20 seconds out of every 30. So it's pretty cool. If you have double DK, you can have 100% uptime on 20% increased healing. Actually, if you have a DK Feral Druid tank combo, you can have either 20% uptime or 30. You can have the Feral Druid buff up too. It's up for twice as long. I think it's up for 40 seconds. So, you can have one of those up pretty much at all times. Those are pretty good, and the Feral Druid's only a 90-second cooldown. So, yeah, what you guys can see here near the end, and one thing the thing that it got really tight on heroic is, we just had so many low wipes after low wipes after low wipes. I can actually just pause this real quick and just kind of show you guys our news posts. Let me go ahead and find this. Yeah, here it is. This is a news post that we posted right after we killed it, World First 25 man or whatever. There's guilds that are like, oh, we're beating you on 10 man. Well, yeah, you can kill the 10-man version before the 5-minute mark. It wasn't real. This is, as far as disparity between 20 and 25 mans, this fight here had the single largest disparity, and it was actually in favor of 10-man being easier on this particular fight. Now, gunship was pretty drastic. It was a lot harder on 10-man, but this one was by far and above a completely separate fight on 25-man. And you can see here, there's a 5.2 mil wipe, a 4.1 mil wipe, and then a 2.7 mil wipe at 0%. Those are they're soul crushing. You know what I mean? And every one of these, you always had some dumbass that would end up clipping Fading Light too close and dying, and it's just like, you know what? Well, there is the reason why we didn't kill it. But we ended up pulling it out. I think we raided super late. This is the latest night that we raided during Dragon Souls on this boss. But just because we kept having those single-digit sub 5% wipes, and no one wanted to go to sleep and wake up to have another guild, have got the kill. But, we pushed through it and made it happen. I think we were raided till 6 or 7 in the morning. Most nights we only raided till like 2 a.m. or something like that. But this one we were up until, I know the sun was up by the time we ended up quitting that night. And we ended up not killing it that night. We just, chilled out, came back in the next day and got it done. The fight's really mundane up until the last. You got a lot of coordination going on in the last little bit, like as the guy pointed out in chat. You see what happens here? We actually had Diggs, he's our Feral Druid. We actually had him go bear and wait for the debuff to fall, and then give us the, Feral Druid 4-piece for the final 10% of the fight. And he lost a lot of damage doing that, but it helped the healers out immensely. Having the extra healing, extra HP. On top of that, you can have people, using hymns and all that shit. So, pretty cool. Definitely an intense fight, especially when it comes down the wire like that. It's not such an intense fight when you're beating the enraged timer drastically like you are now. But you see here the raid group staying out. That was the last one that we took as a group. And we know here, I mean, at this point in the fight, I'll go ahead and unmute sound for you guys. We'll go ahead and hit play here with sound on. Okay, so he's getting bear cooldown up. And you see here we know that the next hour of Twilight is going to be the last one of the fight. Okay, so no one goes down. You stay out and you DPS because, you know, that's the end of the fight. There's no point in going down. It doesn't matter what your debuff is. We're going to let this play out here. Okay, so here this is the enrage cast, and this is the one where it would be a hour of Twilight, but it's replaced at the 6-minute mark. Like I said, at 6 minutes it casts Twilight Eruption. So you actually have it's a 6-second cast. I'm pretty sure. Let me actually move this back and double check. 5 seconds. Yeah, okay, 5-second cast, and I think our kill time was was like 6:04. I mean, I'll go ahead and let this play here. We were pretty excited about this kill. Okay, so there's the nerd screams and all that jazz from that kill. I actually wanted to show you guys how close that actually was whenever we ended up killing it. I'm going to go ahead and pause it right. Okay, she still had health left with .09 left. Okay, so it looked like let's see. Yeah, like .08 seconds, or .8. Is it .08 or .8? .8. So yeah, we had .8 seconds left. So that's how close it was. So just you know, it can come down to the wire like that. That's why it's always important to make sure your guild's focusing on min-maxing and all that stuff. You know, with 20 stats to chest, epic gems. I mean, you're like .8 seconds. That's less than a GCD. Okay, that's the difference between getting a world first or constantly wiping. You know, and that's why there's always such that importance put on making sure your shit is min-maxed. Okay, and that just goes into a whole different can of worms. But this is actually a video reference of exactly what I'm trying to explain to you guys whenever you guys listen to the raid leader shows and things like that. You know, so make sure that you know, make sure your guild understands that to the utmost, especially if you're on the fight and you're doing, you know, if you're doing this on progression. People need to understand how important every single stat point is. And I mean, more than anything, it comes down to just not fucking up mechanics. You know, I mean, we had people die on this pull. You know, we actually, you see here, Crucial is dead. You know, and I'm actually not sure when he died. He had to have died near the end because he's alive going into. Okay, he died at the very last tick of the AOE damage. Okay, so one thing about this is, I mean, if you're ever at this point and you're super close, your healers have to DPS. There's no more damage going out right now. You know, like, just do DPS. I mean, like, the boss is casting. She's not meleeing the tank, nothing. She's casting Twilight Eruption. You know what I mean? So, you know, that is a perfect example of why you guys always hear me preaching min-max. Alright, so, let's see. Cool stuff, bros. Yeah, can't really get into a lot more than that. If you guys have questions on, like, saying how to set up groups, what classes are the best to leave out, again, that's, you know, DK, Rogue, Shadow Priest, Hunter, Fire Mage. You know, those are pretty much your main options. As far as a raid group, you need to have a barrier is best. If you don't have a barrier, a Paladin's DSAC works, or a Warrior's, you know, 4-piece shield wall, along with Rallying Cry, things like that. So, I mean, there's always a way to kind of milk out more damage depending on the comps you want to send up or down. Alright, so, yeah, it pretty much wraps up the Ultraxion and Morchok stuff. It's not going to be, you know, there wasn't really going to be super in-depth just because those fights aren't as in-depth as something like Spine, Madness, and whatnot. But, you know, if you guys have questions over any of the Heroic Dragon Soul encounters, you know, we have covered every single one of them. Started with Gunship, then we did Spine, then Madness, then Zanaz, then Your Size, then Hagara, and now we've added Morchok and Ultraxion. So that's all 8 of them. Make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube, and you can go to that playlist. Say your buddy's guild is working on it, or say whatever. You just need to make sure that you let them know they can go watch that and learn quite a bit about the encounter. Okay. Let's see. What's the best classes to give DI to? Dude, if you had the answer to that, and if it was as concrete as me just telling you what that would be, my life would be a lot easier. Every single week I have to listen to the bitch fest about who should get DI, this is why I should get it, blah, 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 the whole 9, right? I don't know the answer to that, just because every week it's a different flavor of the month. Well, this is why I needed it, blah, blah, blah. So, let's see. What does a DK use to survive Hour of Twilight? What you need to do, say if you're a DPS Death Knight, you need to pop, if you pop Icebound and IBF, or I'm sorry, if you pop, Icebound is IBF, when you pop IBF and AMS, you can pop those two, and I mean, if you're still cutting it close, just go Blood Presence, you know what I mean? And that should be enough. Worst case, you can channel Army, that'll give you a little bit of reduction just because you have innate parry through your strength on your gear, and that'll increase your damage reduction a little bit. But all in all, just you should be fine with going Blood Presence, pop in AMS, and like I said, worst case, you can have something like a Disc Priest give you a PS or something like that. But DK is pretty solid, able to live through it without it. Let's see. Trying to make sure. Does anyone have a spreadsheet or math to back that up? Or I guess you guys are still talking about the DI stuff. Any of the spreadsheets that are public are really put on my Twitter. So if you guys are wanting to check out any of the spreadsheets that we've used here on the show, just make sure to go to my, follow me on Twitter, and then you can scroll through there and find those. Yeah, you guys are getting into a lot of PI debate and things like that. But yeah, I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. I try to keep the shows about an hour long. This has been about 45 minutes, so it's not that bad. That wraps up the Morchok and Ultraxion walkthroughs. And pretty much from this Monday forward, we're going to be focusing a lot more on beta content. Okay, so I logged onto this just so you guys can check it out. And we'll leave it at this today. This is my Brewmaster Monk. As soon as I get some 5-mans and things like that up in the mix, we're going to be in there. And, you can see what's going on. And then tomorrow's going to be a big day as well. We are going to be going through, I have a spreadsheet that I'm going to go through with you guys that I have made, okay, and this covers everything everything out there about the tanks. Cooldowns, this is something I made. It has all the cooldowns and comparisons. It has, it's everything. And what we're going to be doing tomorrow is adding the monk abilities and just seeing how they match up with each other. And this just lets you guys see how and where, like all the, basically everything right now. All this is going to change, okay? But this is the current standing, and you can see all the abilities that have, that have been removed and things like that, or have been tied into other stuff. Paladins definitely had the most things removed and whatnot, but that's kind of what you get for being overpowered for 2 expansions in a row, I guess. So no remorse here. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure they'll end up getting some buffs in the end, but yeah. That's what we're going to be focusing on tomorrow. I'm going to leave that up super long, so you guys have to be here tomorrow to kind of check that out. Like I said, we're going to be adding the monk stuff, and we're going to be going over it super in-depth. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and make sure you guys show up tomorrow. As far as tonight, I'll be streaming a little bit later. We're going to have some sales runs and things like that going, but I appreciate you guys watching the show. I'm probably just going to chill out for a bit, run a couple commercials, and, get ready for the raid tonight. Nothing special, but yeah. Actually, no, we have what am I thinking? There's a 10-man Dragon Soul Heroic clear. Make sure you guys are around for that. We're going to be going at least 6 out of 8. I'll be on my Paladin. And, yeah, so hop back on later tonight, and you guys get to catch a peek on that. But thanks for watching. This will be uploaded on YouTube within the next 24 hours. And, put in the Dragon Soul Heroic walkthrough as far as, just tying up the all the bosses in one. So, start raids probably about an hour, hour and a half, something like that. But, Yep, you guys have a good day. Thanks for watching the show, and just hang out a little bit and do some, watch some of the commercials and help me out. So, thanks. Good show. Good talk.